Right.
Are we set?
I'm set.
How are you feeling?
I'm feeling good.
Good.
Am I sat where
You're
you
very
want me?
patient.
Oh, you're good.
No, I'm all right.
As we work
I'm
through
glad
all
to
the
be
tech.
sat down, to be perfectly
Ah,
honest.
there you go.
It's been a long day.
Long couple of days. So
Yeah.
long week actually. So 1 o'clock bed on Monday night.
Oh my goodness.
Similar last night.
Yeah,
Talking all day.
that'll do it.
But I'm on a plane tomorrow.
Ah, there you go.
There you go.
So
Back
on
home?
holiday. No, holiday. So
That's good.
flying
There
to
you
Lanzarote for a few days.
Ah, very nice.
So that will be lovely.
Yes. Should be
That's
good,
really cool.
good weather as well.
I hope so.
Yeah, that's the point, right?
Well, there is no point in going to Lanzarote for rain. So there's not a lot to do apart from
Right.
watch telly,
Right.
if that's the case.
Nice one. Nice
So
one. Here we are.
here we are, Sean. One more.
An important one.
Huh?
An important one.
An important one, and actually, this is a. I want to consider it a follow-up conversation for one that we already had
Right.
as a pre-event with Professor Steve Furnell,
Right.
and Amanda Finch is here. Thank you for joining us.
My pleasure.
All right, so we're gonna let you introduce yourself for our audience. For those that don't know who you are, you've been around for a long time, so I'm assuming a lot of
Is that a
people
way
in
of
the
saying
audience.
I'm old.
No. The info security industry is young, so even a long time, it's still,
I'm
you know what I'm
teasing you.
talking about.
I'm teasing you.
Anyway, so you were on a panel about small and medium business.
Yeah.
And I want to touch in this conversation just to do a little preview on the fact that despite the fact that the info security industry it's starting to be, around, has been around for a while, we're still facing some issues when it comes to that, and also on diversity and and other topics. So we're going to talk about all of that. But Sean, first of all, we're going to have Amanda introduce herself
I
to our
know.
audience.
I know. Amanda, maybe a few words about some of the things you've been involved with and working on now.
Well, I can probably give you a sort of elevator pitch on my career.
Okay.
I fell into security. It wasn't called computer security. Well, it was called computer security. It wasn't called cyber. That was back in the early 90s. I think I fell into IT before that because, again, I didn't duck quick enough. There's a bit of a pattern going on here. I've grown with the profession. I've seen it go from computer security to network security to now cyber security, and it will probably be called something else in a few years' time. And it's also changed dramatically as a profession. Well, it's grown into a profession. So when I started, all we had were sort of standalone PCs and boot sector viruses and script kiddies trying to break into things for fun. And we're now in a world where we're having to deal with a horrendous level of cybercrime, geopolitical situations, activism, all of that sort of thing. So it's really evolved into something that I would never have actually envisaged. And in terms of my journey, when I started, there weren't really any courses on how to learn. So we used to learn a lot from each other. And I always say I've learned a lot from men in bars because it was generally a very male-dominated industry. And the way I learned was to just ask people to share their experience with me. And that was usually over a drink. So yes, learned a lot from men in bars over the years. And always cared about really bringing others into the profession and helping them with their journey. So sort of things I've been involved in is developing courseware for the British Computer Society, co-written a book on the security management principles, worked for Marks and Spencer for a long time, and then when I left there I worked for the Information Security Forum for a little bit, and I was involved in the IISP, which is the forerunner of CISEC, the Institute of Information Security Professionals. I was a founder member of that. I got voted onto the board by the members, and then I was asked to run it, and that was about 13 years ago. So I've sort of evolved with the profession, and I've always tried to support the profession going forward. So we've now got Royal Charter, which we're very, very proud of. We're now able to charter people against a number of specialisms. So it's really become a proper profession as opposed to some sort of weird thing that some people did.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And just for the record, I think I fell into it about the same time as you.
Did you?
I did, yes. Yes, absolutely. And,
And did you expect to, or what were you doing beforehand?
I was writing software
Yeah.
at the time, yeah. And then was asked to write software for security, funny enough. And yeah, so a fun journey. But this isn't about me. This is about all the good things you're doing for the profession. And so I know you were on the panel about the SMBs. I think you just described the organization that you run to help kind of formalize the profession and what it means. So we'll get to the SMB, I think, in a minute. Maybe can you describe the current state of the profession? Is there a gap that we still need to?
Oh, there are lots and lots of gaps. Is that if we take the CISEC, the Chartered Institute, that was set up originally to help cyber security professionals. At the time, there was no way of measuring if anybody was good. This was back in 2009, around then. And people were taking an exam and calling themselves a cyber expert. Prior to that, you had really a small group of people that either knew somebody or knew somebody who knew somebody. So a lot of jobs were got by recommendation and through word of mouth and things like that. And we realised that we got to a size at that point where we needed to have some way of accrediting people for their skills and competency and knowing whether they were a good person at their particular role. So that's really how CISEC evolved from those roots. So we developed a skills framework which looked at all the different skills that you needed to have within the cybersecurity profession, and we looked at sort of levels of roles. A lot of it was based probably on engineering council ideas because that was a role model that was there at the time. And that's how it's evolved, really, that now we have a membership grades that support everybody that is at entry level right up to fellowship. We have corporate members and we have a corporate member program where we can help organisations develop staff. So we've got an associate development program which takes newbies in and we get them to a point where they understand the breadth of the profession. We leave their organisation to train them in whatever area they want them to be working in at that point. And then we have an FDP, the full membership development program, which takes people to the next stage, because what tends to happen in security is that people are working on a technical thing, like yourself, and then suddenly you get promoted and you're having to present ideas to senior management, or you're having to manage people, which if you're coming from a techie background is quite terrifying.
Right.
And we help people with their career journeys. So it's all about really helping cyber security professionals to evolve and also attract people to the profession. We now have a school scheme where we take people probably about 15, 16 years old. It's something called an EPQ. So it sits around the A-level space. And that teaches them about cyber, and they do a project at the end of it. And that can then help them to lead into the academic partner program, because we have links with a number of universities. But we also have links with apprenticeship programs as well. So we're helping to define the apprenticeship programs as well. So it's really pulling people in from the different areas into the profession, as well as helping people that are already in the profession.
Yeah. It's fantastic.
Well, I want to touch on a couple of things, because then it will connect, I think, on the small medium business panel that you were on. But one thing that you mentioned, and we all know that, if we still look around, and there is still a majority of men in the industry.
Yeah.
And you, I was reading your bio, like you've been one of those conferences where maybe out of 150
Yes.
people, it was only you as a woman, and yet we're now many years with many courses, many colleges that offer cybersecurity course, all of that, but we're still here.
Yeah.
And I used to say this 10 years ago, are we still there? And now 10 years later, we're still there, where there's still a strong gap of minorities in the industry.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you have the answer, but you may have some thoughts about it.
Definitely have some thoughts about it. It's definitely better than it was 20 odd years ago. There's a lovely lady called Sean John who works for NCC.
We know
I'm
her
sure you
very,
know.
very well.
And I think she's actually even got a website called Queue for the Loo. And when we have to start queuing for the loo, we know that our job is done. And it is better. But I think the problem is a lot of it's the name, cybersecurity. It probably doesn't sound that attractive to people. I think there's also a problem of people perceiving it as being a very technical discipline. But yes, there are technical roles, and that's great, but there are also a lot of roles that are not technical. So if you look at what we do, a lot of it is about communicating to people, good practice, how to stay safe, all of those sort of things. Problem solving, how do you get out of this situation, and analytical type skills. So we're always trying to attract people from different disciplines. So if you take problem management, the ultimate place to get problem managers is probably from an A&E department, because if they can't deal with problems, then none of us can. So it's those transferable skills that we want to take across. Comms areas, training departments, internal, external comms, people that have done journalism, we need you. We need people with good written skills, good verbal skills, and analytical. I mean, that can come from a variety of places. So there's that sort of side of it where we haven't really sold what we're doing that well, because we're not saying, hey, this is great, you don't have to sit there with the keyboard. And that's always the image that you see about cyber. It's the person sort of sitting there with a hoodie, usually male, in a darkened room. And that's not going to be appealing to a lot of girls. It might be appealing to some girls, but not to a lot of girls. The other problem we have is that it's actually across both male and female, is that we don't really encourage people learning the STEM subjects. Is that it's something that needs to be taught better in schools. And the other thing about diversity is that we saw this when we took on the EPQ, our schools training program, is that the only people that could afford to do it were the private schools, or the rich grammar schools. So we had quite a campaign to get into the inner city schools. And with that enabled us to raise the number of women going through the EPQ, as well as getting people from far more diverse backgrounds. And we had some funding from DSIP for that, and it's something that we need to continue, and it's something that we're encouraging industry to help us fund as well, because we need to have people from different backgrounds, not just from the point of view it's the right thing to do is to make everything a level playing field, but also if you have people from different backgrounds, you're going to have different ways of thinking. If you have sort of 10 pale, male and stale guys in a room, sorry.
There's plenty of examples about that, and not just in this industry.
You're going to get one answer, or if you have a diverse group of people, then you're going to have potentially far more focus on different areas and different perspectives. So it's logical, but it doesn't seem logical sometimes
I
the
like
rest
to
of the
say
world.
that it's common sense,
There's not much
but
of
it's
it
not that
around.
common, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So I want to jump on this because I see a connection with the small medium business as well. Because you talk community, and you said something that I heard before from other people that have been in the industry for a while. People that became cybersecurity expert by being hackers when they were
Yeah.
younger, where they taught themselves, but then they were talking to each other and learning from each other. And you mentioned that all you learn is from networking and the community that you
Yeah.
had around. And that was kind of like a theme also about the community that could help small medium business to actually take care of the cybersecurity issues because they have to run their own business, but there could be a community of people that can work together for this. And where I'm going with this is, if you haven't noticed it, is community,
Yes.
which is very important. All these circles to grow in your industry, to grow in your business, to grow, but also to stay safe together and to educate each other. So, was kind of like the core of your conversation on the panel?
Well, what we were focusing on is a problem that was probably always been there, and it's more intense now because of the connectivity and, the fact that everything's connected to everything. Is that suddenly you've got people in the supply chain that are vulnerable, you've got small businesses being exposed to things that they probably wouldn't have been exposed to 10 years ago, let's say. And the problem is that if you've got a large organisation, you're able to put some resource, usually not enough, and you can argue what enough is, and it's going to be different from different organisations, but the way I highlighted it was to say that, I previously worked for large organisations, like Marks and Spencer, like Rothschild, like the ISF really, because was part of PwC at that point, is that there are people that look after this stuff. In the same way as you have somebody who looks after HR, you have somebody who looks after law, you've got your legal department. If you look at a small organisation, if they're lucky, they've got one person that does the tech, and maybe they haven't, and yet they've got all of the same exposure to risk as a large organisation, and a lot of the attackers now, they send out things that are scattergun, but with the advent of AI, you've got things that are far more specific and targeted. So they've got a double whammy because they've got things that are looking more credible. So they're thinking, oh gosh, this is a big sale, I better get onto it or whatever. So it's really tough because they haven't got the time, they haven't got the resource, they haven't got the money, they haven't got the education, the knowledge to deal with these things. And coming back to community, cyber is a community problem. It's something that we've got to work together on, more so than ever now, to be able to counteract the threats. So big organisations need to work with smaller organisations. Things like the CyCOS project are going to be wonderful because it's going to provide resource and advice and hopefully local hubs of being able to deal with these things. And the more that we can help smaller organisations, I actually believe that big organisations have a responsibility to support smaller organisations. I think that we have to attack it that way.
Yeah. And I think as we close, Amanda, maybe I'm gonna ask you this. It's easy to we didn't say the 2-letter word here yet. I'm going to. It's easy to look into the future and what threat is ahead of us, what technology is coming at us, and try to basically, from a business perspective, get our business running and hopefully do that safely. And I feel perhaps we sometimes lose sight of where we've been
Yeah.
and experiences we've had, challenges we've overcome that we can learn from and apply to the current moment,
Yeah.
to best practices, general hygiene, whatever it is. Is there an example of something from your experience that
well,
could set us up better now because we've already done it, that maybe
Well,
we were forgetting?
I think there's a couple of things I'd like to throw into this, is that whenever we seem to get a new technology or a new way of working, everybody thinks, oh, it's all different, we've got to think of loads of different ways of handling this. And then there are loads of vendors, I can't say that because there's a load of them
Yeah,
downstairs.
but they can't hear us.
They can't hear us, that's good. And they come up with a wonderful technical solution that's going to solve everything. And it never does, because it can't. And the thing is that you're absolutely right. We need to learn about what's come before us. And that this is why, sorry, I'm not trying to sell my old book, but this is where security principles come in. That a lot
We'll
of
sell the
things,
book. We'll include a link.
is a lot of things don't change. You know,
Yep.
it's a lot of the thinking about how we deal with things doesn't change, and you can't fix things with a silver bullet that's got a great product on it, however good the salesman is that you've got to think, what is it you're trying to protect, what does it mean if it goes wrong, you know, how are you going to deal with that? And everything that we've seen, whether it's networking to cloud security to the internet when it came first in, and now AI. It's another problem, and we've just got to learn to deal with it, and we've just got to learn how best we're going to cope with it, and that evolves over time. The other thing that is probably good but bad but good, I don't know quite which way you look about it, is that when I first started doing awareness, you could barely use the word computer. You'd have to really scale it back into words of very, very simplistic language.
Right.
And with things like the Marks and Spencer attack, that has really brought it into people's minds about, gosh, this can really affect my life.
Yep.
You know, the same way as all the lights went out in Spain and
Right.
Portugal.
Yeah.
And then suddenly people are thinking, wow, so if the lights don't work, that means I can't get online, can I? I can't do this. And I couldn't do that order. So where's my data? Where's my personal information?
Right.
And if anything, the end user is becoming a lot more sophisticated. But the trouble is, it's this sort of circular thing, or it's a, you know, the bad guys start, the good guys get to here, the bad guys overtake, and it's always been thus. And I think that we just have to learn to live with it, and to live with it safely.
Yep.
Really.
Well
As
put.
safely as possible, anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we need to adapt to the new things, but still understanding that are the tools and the technology that has evolved, we're still very much human. And I social engineering is like, social engineering. I'm like, well, social engineers always existed.
Always been.
It was a one-on-one. I was going to try to sell you something fake, maybe, and now it's just scale to who knows what. But we're still reacting psychologically in our DNA, you know, in the same way. And I feel like when we look back, yeah, we need to learn how to learn from the past, but I don't think we're that good at that. I wish we did, but I don't know.
I think it's really hard, and I think the thing that really frightens me at the moment is this whole deep fake thing, the echo chamber, the just whether you can trust data sources.
Right.
And I think that's something we've really got to work on, because the people that I really care most about are the vulnerable, which is usually the young and obviously the very old as well.
Yep.
And I think it's really hard. You know, you see some of these awful things with grooming and you know, people being sort of dragged down to the dark side of the web, and all, you know, every sort of horribleness that you can imagine. And that's the thing that probably frightens me the most, is that we need to find some way of having trusted data sources, whether it's for news, which seems to be sort of going away, to being able to trust a website, to be able to trust that somebody that's speaking is actually that person that's speaking.
Yep.
And that, I think, is probably for me the biggest challenge that we need to face over the next.
I agree with you. From a sociological perspective, we used to have that thing like the news. It was on the newspaper. It must be true. It was a vetted source, right? Or we heard that on the radio.
Yeah.
And now there is not that anymore, because for a lot of reason, even the what you could trust, it's presented to you like as untrusted. And on top of that, AI is making things a lot more complicated.
Absolutely.
Well, everything is challenged by everything else.
Yeah, for sure. Well, this was great conversation.
I didn't want to end on just an unhappy.
Well, let's end it on something happy then. I'm okay with that.
We will get round it.
I believe
we
so.
have to.
I think so.
There'll be a backlash at some point.
I
We will
think
get
so,
round
but it's
it.
important that we point out the bad, not with fear and monger, but with like, look, this is where we are at. We can do it, but we need to become more aware, more educated, and come together as
And
a
work
community
together.
and
Yeah.
work together. So
Absolutely.
see, we ended up on a
That's
positive
good.
note.
That's what we like.
All right.
And I like to end with a call to action, which
Yeah,
is
do that.
security principles,
Yeah.
but also human principles.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's
the
a
two,
lovely
the
way
two
to
together, I think we will
end.
overcome.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Amanda, you're amazing.
Thank you so
So,
much.
so good to have you on.
Pleasure to talk to
Yeah,
both
likewise.
of you. Thank you so much.
Likewise.